explodes outside the US Embassy in Dar es Salaam, the capital of the neighboring country of Tanzania. Nothing has ever happened like this before to Americans in the region. It's an incomprehensible act that stuns the world.
Our teams are on the ground in Africa. They are tending to the wounded. They are providing security. They are searching and finding evidence. We will do whatever we can to bring the murderers to justice.
To a handful of experts inside America's intelligence and security agencies, it's immediately obvious that the sophistication of an operation like this can't have come from locals working alone. The suspicion is that a Saudi prince few have heard of, called Osama bin Laden, is behind the attacks. Earlier in the year, he declared a holy war on the US. And now it's clear he wants the world to know that America has an implacable enemy that will strike without warning.
The 1998 embassy bombings were a turning point. Until then, al-Qaeda had been a shadowy, behind-the-scenes presence. It wasn't really known to the public, wasn't widely known outside intelligence circles. You can't really overstate the impact. This was the declaration of war on the United States.
The only explanation for the location of the attacks is the ease with which they can be carried out. Poor security, corruption, and easy targets like Western mass tourism make the country irresistible to a burgeoning terror organization.
The embassy bombing revealed the fact that the East Africa al-Qaeda cell found Kenya to be actually quite a permissive environment to work in. They had both aggrieved Muslim coastal populations that they could find some support from. They had opportunities, thanks to Kenya's corrupt political system and police, to operate with near impunity, and they had thousands of soft targets.
Almost immediately, the US hits back at known al-Qaeda targets.
Today, I ordered our armed forces to strike at terrorist-related facilities in Afghanistan and Sudan.
But they fail to achieve their objectives. The strikes on a base in Sudan destroy a harmless pharmaceutical factory. 75 missiles hit 4 al-Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan in an attempt to kill Osama bin Laden. But he's not in any of them. As well as tracking down Osama bin Laden, the CIA wants the local cell responsible for the planning and the execution of the attacks. Within hours of the bombing, Kenyan police have an amazing stroke of luck. They arrest a man who turns out to be one of the suicide bombers, who panicked and fled at the last minute. On his cell phone are numbers that confirm his links to al-Qaeda. But he gives an even more valuable piece of information. The name of his al-Qaeda handler in Nairobi. That name is Harun Fazul. The CIA Nairobi station immediately get to work. They check NSA wiretaps of Osama bin Laden's calls to Nairobi and see regular connections to the offices of an AIDS charity and conversations with an employee there called Fazul. When investigators raid the charity's offices, they discover fake passports that show that Harun Fazul is an alias used by someone called Fazul Abdullah Mohammed. It turns out he's a hardened terrorist with over a decade's experience.
Fazul had a very long and winding background, but he moved to several different places, you know, in and out of Africa, even going as far as going to Pakistan. He was the personal secretary to Osama bin Laden, and then moved with bin Laden back to Sudan. Fazul really became one of the guys that was a foreign operations director, took on this role of doing the big external foreign attacks for al-Qaeda, and specifically the Horn of Africa. He would make trips into Kenya, and so leading up to the embassy bombings, he would go there, you know, set up logistics, look at financing and money.
Investigators also discover that Fazul is assisted by a young protege called Saleh al-Nabhan. Further interrogations reveal that the two terrorists fled Kenya on the eve of the bombing. CIA analysts conclude they must have gone to one particular country. Kenya's violent, lawless, and chaotic neighbor, Somalia, is the perfect safe haven for terrorists on the run. For years, it's been a no-go area for Americans, thanks to the notorious Battle of Mogadishu 5 years earlier. The shooting down of a Black Hawk helicopter and the drawn-out rescue attempt that followed led to massive American casualties. It later became known as Black Hawk Down.
18 U.S. Army Rangers were killed, hundreds of Somalis died in that. The U.S. pulled out, and Somalia was left to its own devices for a number of years.
The CIA now realizes that going after Fazul and Nabhan means chasing them down to the one place where no commander wants to send his men. Somalia is a dead zone, where the US has no base, no friends, and no contacts.
The assets that the US intelligence community had in Somalia were practically non-existent. When the US troops pulled out of Mogadishu in 1993, the CIA station went with them. That was the last CIA presence in the country.
The CIA is virtually in the dark and will need to build an intelligence gathering operation from the ground up.
Very difficult to go in there and really get any sort of intelligence going. There's not a lot of signals intelligence, so you really have to rely on human intelligence.
And then the CIA makes another disturbing discovery. Because Kenya's Muslims distrust the US-backed Christian government, al-Qaeda sympathizers straddle the border of Kenya and Somalia. It's a situation which suits the terrorists perfectly.
The internal dynamics of Kenya really play to the strengths of guys like Fazul and Nabhan. So we partner with the Kenyan government, which is predominantly Christian and from the tribes of central Kenya, but the Kenyan Muslim coast has always been a minority and a somewhat oppressed minority. And because there is that division in that country, Nabhan and Fazul can move up and down the coast of Kenya and in these Muslim populations.
Intelligence comes in that Fazul and Nabhan are most likely being protected by a Muslim fishing community on one of the many islands that dot the coast of Kenya.
Fazul built networks both in Nairobi, especially in a neighborhood known as Eastleigh, which is a slum area of Nairobi, and he also did that up and down the coast of Kenya. He would move up and down through those locations and then move back into Somalia, and even there he would pick up Kenyans who he would train in Somalia, and they would move back into Kenya. That knew how to sort of naturally navigate these networks, I think. And it gave them a certain ability to move up and down the coast, where once it came time to execute an attack, they knew exactly how to do it, and they had a robust network to do that.
Posing as fishermen and married into local families, the cell now starts making inroads into the ports of Somalia, building logistics and networks to enable their next attack.
It turned out that The East Africa al-Qaeda cell was using Somalia the same way a lot of business people were using Somalia, basically as the world's largest duty-free shop. The ports there, the seaports where you could move money, men, materiel from beach to truck and into East Africa, no questions asked.
The cell now have a presence in both countries and are able to switch at a moment's notice when it suits them, maximizing the proximity of a failed state to a land effectively defenseless from terrorism.
What's different about Kenya as well as opposed to Somalia, especially for al-Qaeda, is access to Western targets. To attack a Westerner from Somalia, they have to project a long way. They have to really build out an operation. You can't do that unless you have a support network in another country with access to targets. They could access Western targets there. They had a network that could support them, and they had a safe haven in Somalia that they could flee to. So Kenya became a right place for Fazul and Naban to essentially conduct attacks on the West.
The CIA know that with all its resources and power, the US could send in troops and bring the terrorists to justice. But since the disaster of Black Hawk Down, nobody in Washington has much interest in tackling Somalia. Then one day in September 2001, all that changes.
And have ordered that the full resources of the federal government go to help the victims and their families, and to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act.
9/11 suddenly put Somalia on the front burner of U.S. counterterrorism concerns. The U.S. government had very good reason to believe that as it hit al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, al-Qaeda would disperse to ungoverned space, places where it would be beyond the reach of rule of law. And Somalia, of course, is a country with a completely collapsed state, an Islamic country. And so Somalia immediately garnered a lot of attention.
With an overnight change in policy towards the terror threat in Africa, the hunt for the masterminds behind the embassy bombings now becomes a top priority. The US is now determined to prevent Somalia becoming a haven for al-Qaeda. And President Bush allocates $100 million of military spending to the region. At the center of the package is an expanded military base on Somalia's northern border, and a massive investment in the CIA operation in Kenya with a substantial influx of intelligence operatives and special forces.
So the CIA station in Nairobi was dramatically reinforced. We brought in a bunch of military guys. You know, the cover was they were part of a training mission for the Kenyan military. And in fact, they were all special forces operators with some paramilitary experience with the CIA. And these guys became the nucleus for trying to figure out what was going on inside Somalia.
But all the spending in the world won't give the CIA the one thing they need most: intelligence on the location of Fazul and Nabhan. They need contacts in Somalia, and despite the increased investment, a year on from 9/11, the trail is still ice cold. Kenyan intelligence and CIA analysts realize that they have no means of guessing where or when the terrorists might strike next. All they can be certain of is, it's only a matter of time before they do. One of the jewels of Kenya's tourist industry is its tropical coastline. And a much sought-after beach resort is the Paradise Hotel near the busy port of Mombasa. It's popular with Israelis flying in from Tel Aviv for a week in the sun. It's the Jewish holiday of Hanukkah. Everyone is in festive mood. Suddenly, a car explodes outside the hotel. 16 people are killed, including 10 Kenyans and 3 Israelis. Many more are injured. A mile away at the same time, a chartered passenger flight from Mombasa to Israel takes off carrying 200 holidaymakers heading home. As it leaves the tarmac, 2 surface-to-air missiles streak towards the plane. The missiles only just miss their target. Simultaneous, coordinated attacks, the al-Qaeda signature. Just like the twin bombings of the US embassies 4 years earlier. In a hijacked fishing boat, a gang of Islamist militants are heading for the city of Mumbai, formerly known as Bombay. Their intent? To target Westerners throughout the city in a coordinated terror strike that will result in an orgy of death and destruction. Mumbai is the richest, most populated city in India. It prides itself on its Western influence.
Mumbai is a busy, crazy, hectic, wild place, absolute assault on the senses.
Mumbai, to Americans, is considered a wealthy city, home to Bollywood, home to luxury hotels, luxury boutiques. It's considered an investment city.
Between 8 and 8:30 p.m., a gang of 10 men, all heavily armed and with provisions to last days, slip ashore at this point, just minutes away from their intended targets, in the heart of the city. The evening is like any other, bustling and busy, as people hit the streets and relax after work. British tourist Hanish Patel was enjoying a few drinks with a friend at the world-famous Leopold Cafe.
The Leopold Cafe is a very popular bar cafe where a lot of Westerners, locals and tourists meet for food and drink. I recall from walking into the bar, it was completely packed.
Local journalist Surav Mishra was also enjoying a drink when he saw 2 visitors that weren't there for the beer.
But I saw people moving around, quite a few people moving around. They seemed out of place to me.
Must have been 15, 20 minutes in. Suddenly I heard a gunshot and what sounded like a lot of glass dropping at once.
I just hear ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, and then something hits me.
2 gunmen are firing AK-47s from the doorways, spraying the cafe with bullets.
A lot of shouting and screaming, people rushing around.
When I came out of the door, I realized there's something which is holding me back. Then I see that blood is flowing out of my body.
There were a lot of bodies. The floor was just covered in thick blood. And then suddenly everything went silent. Clearly the guy was reloading. And it's during that round that I was hit.
After a sustained attack, the gunmen flee into the night, leaving the dying and the wounded to their fate.
It really was a case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Across town, a taxi carrying 2 more gunmen heads for the crowded central railway station.
The Victoria Terminus would be akin to an attack on Grand Central.
I think the targets are fantastically well chosen. I think if you look at the station, that's the busiest station in Mumbai.
Mingling with the people they intend to kill, they walk through the crowded passenger hall. At 21:53, the gunmen pulled AK-47 assault rifles from their bags and unleashed a devastating hail of bullets into the crowd. 104 people were injured and 58 were killed.
My first reaction when I saw the shots, I told my wife, I said, this is not gang warfare. This is a terrorist attack.
What took people by surprise was the fact that the way Mumbai was chosen, very clearly designed to show that nowhere is safe in India anymore.
It is now clear that Mumbai is under a sustained terrorist attack, but no one knows who is behind it or where they will strike next.
We begin with a mass terror attack in India's largest city, Mumbai.
Millions watch as the events unfold live across India's news networks.
Well, this is clearly an unprecedented scale of a terror attack on Mumbai and the center.
One viewer is Jyoti Krishan Dutt, the Director General of India's elite National Security Guard. And after watching the events unfold, he orders his Black Cat commandos to stand by. Nicknamed the Black Cats because of their distinctive uniforms, the National Security Guard commandos are the ideal unit for the situation.
The National Security Guard was set up around the mid-1980s when India actually first faced the threat of urban terror.
The Black Cats have two principal areas of expertise: counterterrorism and counter-hijacking, and they are also experts in hostage rescue.
The NSG is a highly specialized force designed and structured on the lines of some of the world's key anti-terrorism special units like the SAS, GSG-9, the US Navy SEALs.
The men are all drawn from the Indian Army.
Everybody in the NSG who comes to join the organization is a volunteer. Right. And he's put through a probation at Manesar, which is 30 kilometers south of Delhi.
All recruits are put through a rigorous screening process, assessing physical fitness, shooting standards, and psychological profiling.
They look at people who have commando mindsets and therefore are willing to do the unusual in unusual circumstances. So they look for people who are out of the box.
Those who are left, then they are put through a brutal regime of physical training, special operations training, like for example, room shooting practices, building interventions, bus intervention, metro intervention, and bomb disposal training.
And it takes anything up to 1 year for a soldier to be fit to be employed operationally.
Their extensive skills and specialized training make the Black Cats India's elite special forces unit and the ideal troops to take on the terrorists in Mumbai.
They are daredevils, they are first-rate troops, and I can vouch for that.
But the question is, how will they deal with a gang of well-armed, committed terrorists spread out across India's busiest city? Mumbai, 26th of November 2008. Reports are coming in of a series of gunfights and explosions.
At 9:15, armed with AK-47s, gunmen launched their first attack.
The city is under a prolonged and remorseless attack from an unknown number of highly armed and rapidly mobile terrorists.
One did not exactly know where and what was happening, and whatever information we were getting was from the media.
The Leopold Cafe has been hit. So has the main train station. Now, there are reports of gunfire at a local hospital and a police station. Time bombs left in taxis by the terrorists detonate in different parts of the city. Reports are already coming in that 74 people have been killed and 147 wounded.
I think within 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes, I was absolutely sure that this was a huge story, possibly the biggest terror attack in India.
At this stage, the authorities have no idea what is going on. Instead, the best intelligence is from social media.
It was really the first time that Twitter played a very big role in our news coverage. people posting links to cell phone images, people who were giving first-hand accounts.
From the sheer number of messages, the scale of the attacks and sense of panic on the ground is obvious. But with so much conflicting information, it is impossible for the authorities to build up an accurate intelligence picture. BBC correspondent Mark Dummett was scrambled to the scene of the attacks.
It was stunning. It was shocking that this was going on in India. It was so confusing because it was taking place in lots of different locations. I mean, at that stage, even the government had no idea what was going on.
The sudden assembly of the world's media means that there is now mounting pressure on the Indian authorities. It later became clear that grabbing worldwide attention was a key part of the terrorists' plan.
It was meant to last a long time. It was meant to attract the attention of the world.
Gunfire, explosions, and terror in Mumbai.
The timing played perfectly into a Western news schedule.
119 people have been killed and 315 wounded, including 3 Americans.
Remember, it happens at night in Mumbai. It's daytime in New York.
The global media coverage adds to the sense that the Indian government has lost control of the situation.